state of Dhyana that allows you to see your ego activity in relationship to the astral and the etheric. And the astral life is what allows you then to be making decisions about your deeds in the world that will then allow you to make that journey possible. Otherwise, you remain sort of confused, and you keep developing sanskara, or reactive momentum to the world. And in a sense, you can refer to those boundaries as the product of sanskara, and you keep building up your sanskara. You keep building up that boundary. You keep breaking it up. It gets firmer and firmer between you and the world until you begin to get the insight into the nature of what's coming at you. Dhyana talks about being able to see ourselves in the other, being able to understand the lessons in these given moments. That's that astral light coming towards you. And then that's a sort of witnessing capacity that you develop. That's Dhyana. Being in the place that, practically, Dhyana is in a moment when you're having a conversation with someone, maybe an argument, and suddenly you recognize why you are here and what is your work in here. That's Dhyana, basically. That's Dhyana. Dhyana is that continuous witnesship that begins to take place in your life so that you begin to recognize these karmic circumstances. Now, that work can be all done in a meditative state, or it can be done by the guru too. The guru can just say, okay, I'll just take away that karma, that's basically how it was done a lot of times, because the guru has something to do, and just like, the story of Christ, picked some disciples, and okay, just get up and come with me, I took care of all that, don't worry about it, dead, very dead, I got it all. That's one way that works out. And then you can do that for yourself through inner practice. Inner practice is releasing the sanskaras and releasing the sanskaras and releasing the sanskaras by being in that place of witnesship that arises out of chakra dharana. But for most of us, we're living in the world in terms of Tantra. Tantra is how that unfolds in the world, how the work is done in the world, as opposed to how it's done in solitary meditation. And we begin to recognize in the world the practice happening and are able to respond, energetically, appropriately, in those situations, so that we begin to weaken that boundary between us and what we are prepared for ourselves in the process of incarnation. Now, that's in a sense the first level of Dhyana. And before I go on, I'm going to step back and explain what is the nature of being in yoga. Because the three levels have to do with the nature of being, the three levels of being. But I want to stop right there and see if there's any questions about that idea of how diminishing those boundaries is how we work through revelation of sentient soul, intellectual soul, and consciousness soul.
In the, I think it's in the fifth gospel, Steiner says that there's he talks about how Jesus had traveled around and he spent time with the Essene community. And in there, he realized there was this incredible wisdom, but he eventually had to push away from them because they had isolated themselves to great an extent from the world. And so he realized that was not his mission. That was not a true path. They were capable of achieving great spiritual insight, but only at the expense of totally divorcing themselves from the world, and therefore they were, in a sense, pushing more suffering onto the rest of the world to save themselves from it. So
this has like this boundary, like guards sort of guarding their own space, right?
Yeah.
And the rest of the world was left to the
Mm-hmm.
devil or whatever.
Right. Right there at the threshold of the community.
And speaking, and of course that's always one of my questions in my own karma, so is how much separate from the world do I really desire to be? and how much tantric work you might want to do. It's always a question for me. Maybe it's just a question for everybody. Some people, like, my wife, is a natural tantric person. She wants to do her work in the world, but and wants to have revelation come out of that activity. I support her. But personally, I guess that's kind of my Dhyana. You always have these polarities, and becoming the witness to those polarities is the question. That's exactly what you're doing. That's polarities. All of life is polarities. This is a big thing. And really, modern anthroposophy is all about the individuals in anthroposophy who are discovering and understanding polarities in our lives. And they always are writing books about working with those polarities. And so basically all they're saying is, here's how you achieve Dhyana in this situation. Here's how you overcome the duality and achieve a state of witnessship that then allows you to work in a different way in the world. That's basically, and that's really the most common expression of Steiner's wisdom in the writings that you read from modern anthroposophists. That's what they got. They got that, and that's what they're always talking about.
They feel that that's their tantric work in the world, tries to articulate.
Right.
Would that speaking equate to tantric work or not?
Yeah, I was going to bring a point that I decided to skip a moment ago about how our karma in the world works, but we may come back to it. So I'm going to move on. And so the aspect of being in yoga says that there's 3 aspects of being. And I'll start with what's considered the lowest aspect of being. It's the aspect of being of cosmos, God. Everybody has these 3 aspects of being. Every being consists of these 3 aspects. And one is called the Chitta Tattva. Tattva just means principle or theory, but the ideal of Chitta. Now, Chitta means the retention, and sometimes it literally translates as the done I, what is actually done, the mind, the finished mind. And they think a lot of times that this whole world is the cosmic Chitta, the expression of the cosmic mind, the Chitta. Our bodies, in a sense, are Chitta. The koshas are Chitta. The Chitta is the actual, one way they like to look at it is that, in a sense, you have this film, and this film is taking on imagery. The nature of the Chitta is that it takes the shape of whatever it's exposed to. So through our senses, we get it. The Chitta is exposed to the world. The mind is exposed to the world, and it takes the shape. And really, that's also the source of samskara. If the Chitta takes a shape, then that shape has to be expressed at another point. It's sort of like it takes a shape, and that shape has to unfold at a different point. And the thing about this film is something really interesting. It's a holographic film, which means that in this way. We usually think of film as each frame is a different picture, and if you run those together, you get a moving picture. Well, you have one frame, and all the pictures exist in that frame. And all the pictures can be accessed uniquely, but out of only one frame. There's only one frame, which is the mind, either the unit mind, which is called the jiva, or the jivas, or the cosmic mind. There's only one frame, and all images exist in that one frame. And so that's the Chitta. The best way to think of it is, I used to ask this question. I ask the question, what is consciousness? And when I ask you that question, to answer that question, you have to go through the three aspects of your being. What usually when you ask someone that question, the first thing they kind of do, they look for the answer. They go, And what you're trying to do right then is access a quality of being called the Mahatattva. You're trying to find the identity or gestalt in your being, which is equivalent to the articulation of that answer. And that's the second aspect of being, articulation of the Aham Tattva. So there's identity, articulation, and then the retention of the done act. Those are the three aspects of the being. identity, articulation, retention are the Dhyana. Mahatattva, Ahantattva, and Chitta Tattva. Now, what happens in the practice of Chakradharana and in the practice of pranayama is you are basically forming chitta in two different ways. In Chakradharana, you're forming chitta by focusing on a source which is external. Either you're focusing on something outside of yourself, or you're focusing on the image within yourself. Now, the nature of those is that they're rhythmic. The nature are vibrational. Everything out in the world is vibrational, and the nature of the memories we have are also vibrational. So that's why you only get you get a snapshot, then another snapshot, another snapshot. You have this rhythm of snapshot there. It's not a whole. It's a series of things which are moving rhythmically. And so the chitta takes on a shape, and then a shape goes away, and another shape, and so you have this sort of pulsing, building up of the mind-body. And pranayama is the same way. In the case of pranayama, it itself is rhythmic. It is rhythmic, and the degree when it comes out together, then it allows for a picture to pass through itself into the chitta. When it's expanding, then it's not a source.